It has been more than a month since I last saw my friend, Andy, not his real name. We are both active in a local community organization. Previously, Andy had informed me that he would be participating in a community service program in a rural area for a month. Our community organization held a celebration for the Prophet Muhammad's birthday at our headquarters in the evening. Many of my friends attended, including Andy. After the event, we had dinner and chatted. Andy, who was sitting far from me, then came closer and sat in front of me. I had a horrifying experience during the community service program. This could definitely be written down, scarier than any story, he told me. I just gave a faint smile because writing such things requires a lot of energy. Therefore, I was still contemplating whether to write a horror story. Suddenly, I felt dizzy, my neck felt heavy, my eyes stung, and I felt like throwing up. To avoid any unwanted incidents, I decided to go back to my dorm. "I'll get in touch with you later to get the full story," I said to Andy. The next day, I went about my usual activities, went to the office, and forgot about the incident from the previous night. That night, I decided to stay overnight at the office because it was too late, and there was no public transportation to my dorm. Besides, it was the weekend the next day. That night, I wasn't the only one sleeping at the office. 2 of my friends were also there. Even until 3 in the morning, I couldn't fall asleep despite feeling very tired. Finally, at 3:30, I managed to sleep. But as soon as I fell asleep, I entered into a dream. In the dream, I was sleeping in my dorm, and my hand was grabbed by a tall, green figure. The creature seemed like it was trying to take me away. I kept resisting, hitting it while screaming in fear, until I finally broke free from its grip. When I looked at the time on my phone, it was only 3:45. The next day, I messaged Andy, asking him to come to my dorm that night. I asked Andy to come to my dormitory at 9 p.m. However, until 10 o'clock, he hadn't shown up. He only arrived at 10:30. He said it was because a friend had come over. Then I asked if he had ever experienced sleep paralysis or night terrors during the community service program. He said he had, where he felt like his life was being pulled towards a certain place. Then I wondered if the dream I had last night was related to Andy's experiences. Who knows? He told me that after returning from the community service program, he often hears the voice of an invisible woman calling his name, a voice he also heard during the program. Not just his name, but also an invitation to come over here. This made him wonder if he was hallucinating or if perhaps a spirit from the place of the community service program was following him. He further recounted an incident that occurred shortly after returning home from the community service program. Upon arriving home, Andy immediately fell asleep. When he woke up, he felt unwell. His intuition told him that something had happened to one of his community service program friends named Mary. Hastily, he called Mary. It could be said that Andy has a crush on Mary. Mary recounted that at home, she was feeling down. Coupled with the dream she had, she couldn't stop thinking about it and was confused about who to tell. Then Mary shared the details of the dream she had at home. In her dream, she and her mother were chased by a girl. In the dream, Mary vomited nails and hair. Then, still in that dream, the path she was on flooded. After telling him about the dream, Andy said that Mary's condition had improved. She no longer felt scared. Mary also told Andy about the words from her relative who has special abilities, saying that if not for Andy, something bad could have happened to the community service program group. Andy's community service program involves students from various campuses, not just one. Initially, nothing strange happened. Like any community service program, there were introductions among group mates heading to the program location and receiving greetings from the village chief. One of the programs Andy participated in was religious outreach. As the group leader, the first step was to meet the local figure who led religious teachings. They met the figure at his home to discuss the study concept. However, the figure indirectly declined the study. "Even if we're not allowed to lead the teachings, allow us to join," Andy said. The next day, the figure sent one of his students to meet Andy. The student conveyed that as long as there were community service program students, the religious teachings would be suspended. This, of course, left Andy perplexed. Andy recounts that every night, one of their group members, a woman named Diana, not her real name, experiences possession. Andy avoids speculation, but Diana began experiencing possession after encountering a figure. A few days before their departure, Diana stopped being possessed. On the first night of possession, the entity claimed to be from the forest behind the camp. Whenever Diana was possessed, Andy would help her snap out of it by reciting prayers, with assistance from other group members. "I'm from the forest behind. I don't like your presence here. It disturbs me. It's noisy." "Don't be noisy at night," said the figure inhabiting Diana. The next day, after returning from the beach, Diana ran out of the camp alone and was chased. Upon being brought back, she immediately became possessed. "You are weak. You won't last," were the words uttered by the entity through Diana. That night, Diana was possessed again. This time, the threats were clearer, expressing hatred towards Andy because he was strong. The entity claimed that Andy's presence disturbed the shaman. Andy grew increasingly confused about what was happening and asked his friends not to talk about it to anyone, fearing complications. The following day, as the group leader, Andy was summoned by the village chief. The chief had received reports from the organization overseeing their community service program about the terror experienced by Andy's group in the village. "They say some locals don't like you?" asked the village chief. Andy replied that nothing had happened and suggested there might be a misunderstanding, promising to inquire with his team. After returning from the village hall, Andy asked if anyone had reported the incidents. It turned out one of the group members had indeed reported what the community service program group experienced. That night, Diana was possessed again, accompanied by violent outbursts. "My master hates you. It's better if you leave now, or else you won't be able to leave," the entity threatened. The demon possessing Diana revealed that there was a white turbaned figure who always protected Andy from demonic disturbances around him. The next night, Diana was possessed again. This time, her body stiffened. After prayers were recited, she recovered, only to be possessed again. It was then that Andy learned Diana had a special ability. She could act as a medium. The following day until late evening, Diana went missing. Residents and members of the community service program were mobilized to search for her. Every possible place was searched, but she wasn't found. However, one place remained unchecked: the forest behind the camp. Two members of the community service program, Roy and Ray, accompanied by a local resident, entered the forest. Inside, they saw Diana leap into a shallow ravine. They managed to bring her back up without incident, just a few scratches and a sprained ankle. Diana was taken back to the camp. Andy later spoke with some villagers who mentioned a forbidden beach that had been visited by some community service program members. While the beach could be visited, it required local supervision. Andy hurried back to the camp to ask who had visited the beach. Before Andy could ask, Diana suddenly became possessed again and introduced herself as the guardian of the beach gate. Feeling disturbed by the arrival of 3 people in her territory, she threatened to disrupt their lives. "No, they didn't know it was a forbidden beach," Andy said. Andy then asked what should be done. The beach guardian creature replied that the 3 people must apologize. Andy asked his team who had visited the beach. Finally, 3 female students confessed. Andy asked them to apologize. Initially, they refused but eventually agreed. Likewise, the beach guardian initially refused to accept the apology. After being pressured by Andy about his promise to accept the apology, it finally agreed to forgive. The 3 students were called inside, but before that, the beach guardian entity possessing Diana said, "Not yet," glancing sideways. The 3 students entered and apologized. Shortly after, Diana became possessed again, by the same entity as the previous nights. "Whatever you do will only be known by the master," it said. Andy was curious about what was really happening. After asking around, it turned out that in the past, There had been robbers from Majura who came to the village and looted. Andy wondered if that might be the cause, as he had Marjorie's blood from his father. At home, he still heard the voice of a woman calling his name, the same voice he heard at the community service program site. Finally, he asked if he had brought something from there. He said yes, a bracelet. "I made that wooden bracelet myself, didn't take or find it," Andy said. Andy also recounted that Mary, a friend from the community service program mentioned earlier, had been sent a love charm by another member of the program.